Hey there, so today I'm going to show you how to 3D model Clippy. Let's go over this together. Alright, so let's start with adding ourselves a circle here. First thing I want to do is I want to play around with the number of vertices over here, just like that. Make it kind of small. We can add more detail later on. Let's move this up here. So it is really nice having a reference for this kind of thing, so you can get everything kind of right the first time here. Let's rotate things around. Go ahead and move things into position, sort of like this. We're going to go just like that. So let's go ahead and separate things. I'm going to press the L key to select this entire thing here. And then press the P key to separate it. And then I'm going to use F3 by default, but I always change it to spacebar for the command search feature. We're going to move the origin point here to this edge here. And then I'm going to do Shift S, 6 o'clock position, and then Shift S, 12 o'clock position to set the 3D cursor, then move to 3D cursor. We're going to Shift S, set the origin point here, and then going to go Shift S, and then we're going to select this. We're going to make sure that this is separated first. Press the P key to separate and move it over here. And we kind of have the basis for our paperclip, just like that. So we're gonna rejoin everything by pressing Ctrl J with all the pieces selected, and then select each of these sides here, and then move them out like so. I'm going to move the 3D cursor right there, and I want to pivot off of that point there, because I just want to make this a little bit bigger over here, just so it moves out like so. And then we can always add more articulation later on. So we have the basis for our paperclip, just like that. And we added a subdivision surface model real quick. I did it really sneaky by pressing Control 1. Let's add a skin modifier. So just search for skin on here. Then we're going to add one more subdivision surface modifier like so. You'll have like a little crinky bit right there. That's because the root point needs to be set to one of the edges here, and that will fix it immediately. And then we can play around with the thickness of this by pressing A to select all, and then press Control A like so. We can select these sides here, bring this in like so. And then we can make the sides tapered in a little bit just by pressing Control A with those selected. And then you can kind of bring these in more if you want it to be a little less pointy. And then you can kind of see how this looks. I think I want to bring this in a little bit. So I'm actually going to move the 3D cursor right there. We're going to be pivoting off of the 3D cursor one more time there. There we go. Just bring it in like so. Move it in like that, move it in like this. We're going to subdivide through here a couple of times just so we have more articulation through here. So if I want to move things around, we can. If I press the O key, I can turn on proportional editing and then really have control over how we want to pose him. But we're not going to pose him right now. We're just going to kind of leave it just like this. Let's go back to our reference real quick. We can move this up here a little bit more. Turn off proportional editing temporarily. Move this up here just a little bit more. And there's that. Let's go ahead and add ourselves some material here. And we're going to go to the shading tab. And he is rather metallic, but they're kind of using a old-fashioned kind of thing. You can see it's kind of gray and blue through here. So I think we need to do is add a noise texture over here. Add that to our guy. And then add a mix color node through here. We're going to move this up here, make this kind of like a dark gray, and then we're going to make this kind of like a bluish kind of thing. We're going to press Control T. If we have Node Wrangler installed, we can have that kind of go through there. I don't know why I'm not seeing what I want to see. There we go. I needed to have more contrast through there. Kind of play around with this. And there's kind of our basis for this guy here. Let's add an eyeball. And we're going to smooth shade. And then I could just add another material. I can add two materials and just kind of assign it, but I want to do this a little bit more cleanly. Going through here. Going to go to vertex painting, And then set that to there. And then going to press Control X to assign to that face there. Use that color attribute. I like to keep things really simple and clean. We don't need to do this part, but I want to do it just because I want to show you how to add an eyelid to them real quick. So I'm holding Control, pressing plus on my keyboard's number pad to select more through there. Add a subdivision surface modifier. We're going to add a solidify modifier like so. Have this go out like so. Going to add another subdivision surface modifier just to really smooth things out. We're going to set the material to that one right there. I can play around with this later on. This is fine. Set that through there. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and just kind of make it go down here. Now I press 7 on my keyboard's number pad. Let's go ahead and add a empty in here, just so we can keep things nice and tidy. Select each of the eye parts. Okay, yeah, select that last. Control P. Now, the cool thing about this sort of setup now is that even if I turn the head sideways, even if I turn the eyeball sideways, if we press the N key, go over here, we can play around with the rotation, and then it's still working normally. So you can make him open his eye more or less in any way that you want, and this is giving us a lot of power. So let's go ahead and, you know what, I want to make his eye glow a little bit. He has like a little bit of, his eyes glow a little bit. Or that's just my interpretation. He has like a shadow underneath. We're not gonna deal with that. Kind of put this into position, kind of rotate things to the side here. Then we're going to right click over here, select hierarchy, do Shift D to duplicate, kind of move it over there. Gonna select both of these. Makes it a lot easier to control it this way. Yeah, I want to just squish it down. So I'm pressing S to scale, then Z to scale on the Z axis, just like that. Let's go over to this area now. Let's go ahead and add the eyebrows real quick, and then we're just about done. So we're going to add a plane here. Press M and then merge at center there. I want to hide this temporarily. So we have we merged it down to just a single point, so I can just click through here. It's kind of hard to see. Okay, I was wondering what was going on. I thought I screwed up. I thought I wasn't able to see through there. There we go. Let's just add a couple of points here, just like so. Just kind of move them into position. And we're going to press Control 1 again for adding a subdivision surface modifier. We'll add one more, and then we'll add a skin modifier. Move that in between here like this. Going to select everything while in edit mode. Turn on smooth shading. Press Control A, sorry. Select the edges here and just kind of move it in like so. And then you kind of have the basis for this. Might want to subdivide just in there just a little bit, just so it's a little more flat around the end there, or a little rounded, I mean. There we go, just something like this, and then we can play around with the edges just like that. I am a fan of that. Add another material. Make that black. We're going to turn down the specular just so it's a little less shiny. And then duplicate this, rotate this 180 degrees. Just move the other one around. Just have it like this. This one you can see is a little bit bigger, but we can always play around with the shape of it. You can always come in through here and make it longer if you want. You can make it longer or shorter. I'm going to keep them the same for now. You can see that we have our guy completed now. We just need to pose him. So I recommend for posing, and you can also separate these. I want to make them separate just so we can move them independently of each other. Everything here is able to move on its own. The way that I recommend posing him is adding a shape key, like so. And then you can kind of just turn on proportional editing again. Go through here. And then we can rotate just like this, rotate them around. The cool thing about using a shape key is that this is very non-destructive. So if you ever want to go back to where we were, we can change it, and then we can rotate things around here. Let's set the origin point to geometry. Origin point to geometry, just so we can make these easier to move around. And then for the shape key, we can just set this back to how this was. And then for the eyes, the eyebrows, press the N key once again. And if we want them to do some really cool stuff, we can, whoops, yeah, we can also make the eyes go up and down as well. You know, we can have this going. I want to add another one through here, just so have a little bit more articulation. Need that to be a little straighter, I think. Just kind of move things however we want. Yeah, so there we go. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be happy to help. Thank you.